What's up, everybody? My name is Rob. Welcome back to Rule of Two Review. And today it's Rob Theories Part 3 as we discuss what happens when DLC is done right. So a couple of days ago, I posted my first ever pickups video, and one of the games that I discussed in that video was the recently released Evolve. Now, Evolve has been gaining a lot of press and a lot of attention lately for a couple of reasons. You know, one of those being that it's a pretty big high-profile release, and it was very, very anticipated for a super long time, including by myself for a very long time. The other news that was coming out really in the couple weeks and months leading up to the release was information about the DLC release structure for the game. And that structure really didn't get a lot of positive press, and I stand behind that negative press because I think that what they've been doing with Evolve, the idea of releasing this game and holding back all this other content like monsters and characters and maps that really should be part of the initial release, holding that stuff back as DLC to be available the day it releases is completely insane, and I think that it's gouging the consumer and the gamer for all of this extra money. And that was all made worse, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, when a lot of the developers for Turtle Rock Studios, the studio behind the game, came out and flat out said that's what they were doing. And the thing that I found to be the most egregious and offensive comment made by Turtle Rock was that they outright said, we need to sell this game for more than $60 to be able to break even or to make money and to feed our family. We need to sell this game for $120, around that amount, to almost every gamer to be able to make our money back on this game and for it to be seen as successful, and yada, yada, yada. Now, that got a lot of people in a tizzy and a lot of people in an uproar. And again, myself included to a degree. I don't really get super frustrated over these things, but what it did do is instantly made me no longer interested in picking up the game. I no longer wanted to play it. I didn't want to support it. And I've stood by that until I decided to pick it up the other day. I encourage you to go and watch my pickups video where I kind of explain why it was my younger brother and some of his friends who are part of another gaming podcast who kind of convinced me to pick it up because they've been playing it and I wanted to still give it a shot because I thought the gameplay looked good. And like I said, that's a whole nother ball of wax. So I recommend you just watch that video if you haven't, where I kind of go in depth as to why I decided to pick up the game. However, long story short, the whole madness around that game, and then my decision to pick it up, and then the fact that after I've played it, which I've been playing it for a couple of days, and I really kind of don't like the game, has made me realize, it just kind of made me think a little bit deeper about the DLC and the DLC market and structure that is so commonplace in today's gaming and only becoming more and more so, and in my opinion, for the most part, only getting worse and representing the worst side of the business practices of the gaming industry. So when I was thinking about that these last couple of days, I also came across a recent article that discussed the new DLC for The Evil Within. And I admit that I had no idea that DLC was coming from The Evil Within. A game that came out in, I can't remember. I do own the game. I want to say October, probably, before Halloween. Basically last fall, several months ago. The game is several months old at this point. I had no idea that DLC was coming. I love the game, so I was super stoked and excited to see that DLC was coming. And that, combined with my realization about Evolve, made me realize a couple of things about DLC. Because I realized, well, on one hand, I have this DLC for this game that I think is absolutely butchering the purpose of gaming and the soul and the purity and spirit of gaming and showing the worst sides of these companies that do this. And then we have this other DLC release that's coming soon that has got me excited for all the right reasons and is the right kind of DLC and I think the right way to release DLC. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, there really are two sides to this coin. So today I wanted to discuss those differences. So what is good DLC and what is bad DLC? Well, to me, the definition, which will differ for everybody, and that is totally okay. This is a very subjective thing, and of course, it's a Rob Theories video, so I'm sharing my theory, which is also just my opinion. I don't expect anyone to agree with it. I just want to present it so you guys can discuss it with me and amongst yourselves. So what is good DLC and what is bad DLC? To me, it has to do with the intended purpose of the DLC. It also has to do with why it's being released, and a huge part of that is also when it's being released. Not to mention the other huge component, which is what the actual content is versus how much it costs. So it's a very slippery slope. There's a lot of different angles to come at it from, and especially in today's market where there's a lot of different kinds of DLC. Are we looking at extra racetracks in Mario Kart? Are we looking at extra fighters in Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat? Are we looking at extra story elements that give you like a prequel sort of insight into the story, like with Alien Isolation? Are we looking at new story stuff after the fact, like with Evil Within? You know, are we looking at, you know, the gouging of every boot and shoelace and bullet and eye patch that you could possibly buy 1,000 times over for Evolve? There's a lot of different ways to release DLC nowadays, and that really comes from the fact that there's a lot of different games being released. And there is certainly, I think, a precedence, and a positive one, for post-purchase content. I think that it's actually, there's so much about DLC that I think is and could be great and should be a wonderful thing for gaming when it's done the right way. Sometimes it's released and it's too expensive for very little content. Sometimes it's, you know, stuff that's being kept out of a game so that they can release it later and get more money out of you. Sometimes it's stuff that they start working on once the initial game is complete, ready to go, and already a complete package, and they just want to extend more of the experience to gamers way down the road after they've already completed the experience as a reason to come back to it. So that's kind of the two different angles that I personally see DLC from in today's gaming market, early 2015. And obviously I have different games and DLC structures that I prefer and other ones that I don't really like at all. When talking about the bad, obviously Evolve is kind of the zeitgeist title right now because it's what kicked this off for me, and it's what's been garnering a lot of negative attention lately. And like I said, even though I've decided to pick up the game, and I certainly don't hate the game, it's not a train wreck by any stretch. It's just a mediocre shooter, and it only offers so much strategy and fun so far. So, you know, it is what it is. But the problem with bad DLC and why Evolve is exemplifying it is it's what I've touched on a couple of times. What you can't do with DLC, what I think is the most horrible and insulting error that a company can make with their DLC nowadays, is to keep stuff out of the final product. And it's made even more insulting when it's released alongside the launch of that game. To me, DLC should only be released way after the fact. It should be something, again, meant to bring you back into the game. And I'm going to go over some examples of good and bad in a minute. And I know it's going to probably get people up in arms, and not everyone is going to agree with my examples, but it's going to be very interesting to talk about them and see what you guys think. It shouldn't be released the day that the game comes out, because to me it shows that, well, if this was ready when the game launched, why isn't it in the game? Like, the end. And I don't want to hear bullshit about, and no one's ever really said this, but maybe somebody could. I don't want to hear bullshit about, well, we couldn't fit it in the game. No. A, it doesn't work that way, and B, if it does, you either put it on another disc or you just don't sell it separately. You don't try to make more money. It's like, you just don't do that. It's not like a car, like a car manufacturer says, we had way too much horsepower to put in this one car, so to get the complete experience, you have to buy a second smaller car with the surplus horsepower. It doesn't work that way. You either fit it into that vehicle or you don't even include it, and then you sell the vehicle at the right price for the amount of horsepower you have, and that's what you should do with gaming. And there's a couple of recent releases that actually would exemplify that practice as well, but that's a different argument. I don't really want to go into that. Long story short, I just don't think that that's how you should do it. A couple of examples I have, and these are meant to be recent or upcoming. Three jumped right to mind when putting this list together. Evolve, obviously. It's the one that kicked this off. Alien Isolation. They had two different DLC sort of components. They were like two different story elements that were a couple of hours each that were meant to expand on the story, bring back the characters from the film, and get everyone excited about that. And they were available as pre-order bonuses. Another huge problem with DLC. They were available as pre-order bonuses, and they were available as in two different markets based on which retailer you went to, or you could buy them later down the road. And these things were meant to be available before the game even came out. And that's a problem. I didn't like how it actually prevented me from playing the game, because I realized, well, the complete experience isn't available unless I download part of it later, and it's not available, you know, to everybody until way after the fact, so I'd have to pre-order it from one of them. I don't want to have to pre-order it to get it for free, and I don't want to have to pay for it later. This prequel shit, whether on the Nostromo, is it the Nostromo? Oh my god, I'm such a bad Alien fan. It's the Nostromo, right? Anyway, where they're on the ship, that should have been in the game. If you made that, put it in the game. If you want to convince people with your content to buy a game, you don't make them pay for it separately or pre-order to get it. You make it part of the game, and you sell the game based off of what's in the game. You don't sell the game based off of what you buy separately at a different time. That is just, to me, again, just to me, is just horrible. That is such a horrible practice. I made a video a couple of months ago when this information came out, the upcoming Mortal Kombat, which I can't wait for, and I am picking up absolutely. they have pre-order bonus DLC available day one. What is this pre-order bonus? It's Goro, like the oldest main staple characters for that franchise. Goro goes back to the original Mortal Kombat, the arcade release in 1989 or 1990, whenever that was. Goro, if you're including Goro, he should be in the game straight up. He should not be pre-order bonus DLC. He should not be DLC later, because I'm willing to bet that you can either pre-order the game and then you get him for free as a separate download, or you'll be able to buy him later for a couple of bucks. And a character like Goro is not what you should do that with. That is withholding something that already belongs to the gamer and the Mortal Kombat fan. The gamer that picks up and plays and buys Mortal Kombat X already should have Goro. That person already deserves, and I think has a right to Goro. And yes, you could say, well, if you pre-order it, you get Goro, so what's the complaint? The point is you shouldn't have to pre-order it. That is complete BS. That is trying to pull your money out of your wallet way too soon by dangling what you should already have available. That's like if when Zelda comes out, Nintendo's like, well, you don't get the Master Sword unless you pre-order the game. The Master Sword is part of motherfucking Zelda, so you should have it in your motherfucking Zelda game, just like Goro is part of motherfucking Mortal Kombat. Now, I would be less angry at Mortal Kombat if they created a new, super unimportant but fun-looking character as a separate pre-order bonus DLC or for purchase down the road for a couple of bucks. That, although that wouldn't be great, it really wouldn't have me so up in arms, because I'd be like, I don't really care about that guy. I have the Kanos, the Johnny Cages, the Goros, these Sub-Zeros and Scorpions that I want in the game already. And I don't think Johnny Cage has been confirmed yet. But still, I have characters I already care about. What I need to play the game is already there. Characters that I already should have are already there. So I don't really care about that other guy. Maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. But it's not going to inhibit my experience. I'll keep going back to this. Goro should already be available. So fighting games are some of the worst offenders. We know about the infamous Capcom Street Fighter DLC a couple of years ago, or is already available on the disc, and yada yada. Characters, things like this, I just don't think they should be DLC in this way. Now, what I do think works with fighters, and this actually goes into another game that I'm going to bring up in a minute, kind of on the good side, is what would work with Mortal Kombat is if they release the game and just don't even talk about DLC. That's where they make the mistake with bad DLC, is they talk about it, they promote it, they're trying to let us know there's going to be more shit to buy and download later, or at the same day that it releases. Get excited, get your wallets and your credit cards ready, DLC. That's the problem. If Mortal Kombat X released, even with or without Goro, let's say it did release without Goro, and 5 months down the road they say, all right, a DLC pack for $10 is coming, and for $10, you get 4 or 5 new characters, including Goro. You know what? That would actually be, in my opinion, pretty darned okay. Then it's like, wow, like you already gave us this great Mortal Kombat game that already felt complete and ready to go 5 months ago. We've played it all. We loved it. We've played all the characters and gotten good with them. And now, for just a couple of bucks, to me, like $10 would be reasonable, for example. For a couple of bucks, you're giving us a bunch of new characters that's going to make me want to play this game again. And one of them is a character that I'm really excited about because we love Goro. He's old school Mortal Kombat. You know what? That would actually be pretty okay in the long run. I feel like that would be a good way to do it. But the way these games are doing these things with Evolve and Mortal Kombat and Alien and stuff, it's just not okay, you know, and they're not the only offenders. They're just the ones that really jump to mind that I wanted to make good examples of. I think that if your DLC is either available the day the game comes out or is being talked about to release soon after, before the game comes out, you're making a mistake. You're talking about content that should already be in the game. There should be nothing before the launch of a game that you are talking about that shouldn't be in the game. It should be there. I mean, I'm, talking myself in circles. At this point, you've gotten the idea. It should be in the game the day the game releases. It should just be part of the final product, And so that's kind of what's going on in the bad DLC. But of course, like I said, the other side of this coin is when DLC is done right. Okay, so I obviously had a lot to say about the bad DLC. It's the thing that kicks this off. When you're angry about something, that's what makes you kind of just want to just go, and just get, almost get flustered getting angry about it. And believe it or not, that was me being angry. But like I said, I actually am also just as excited to talk about when DLC is done right, because I totally believe, like I said in the beginning in this video, I believe in the post-purchase content that is worth it, that makes us excited, that makes us want to keep playing a game that was so exciting to us months and months ago, or maybe a year ago. That's a great thing. Like, we want our $60 game purchases, all this money we put into these games, to go as far as possible. And I do think that when a game is already complete, already released, and gave us the experience we thought we already were going to get for our money, and then other stuff comes down the road that makes us just more excited to play it again, that's great. That's wonderful. We all want that. That's, I think, how DLC started. When I think back to, like, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion days and the Fallout 3 days, like, some of the earliest examples I can think of, at least on the console space, where DLC was kind of starting. It was definitely during the 7th gen. I was like, man, that's cool. Like, Fallout 3, which came out like a year ago, I heard they're releasing this new thing. There's something about Pittsburgh, and you can, like, you have new missions to play, even though you might have already beaten the game a year ago. It's like, wow, there's more to play for this game I liked last year. And at the time, when it was like a pretty new kind of thing, I was like, that is so cool. And I didn't really have a console or a good internet connection at that time in the apartment I was living in to really take advantage of that stuff. But when I realized that was what gaming was doing at that time, it got me excited. I was like, that is so cool. Release a game, buy a game, play a game, love a game, finish a game, put game away until more stuff comes out for that game later, start playing game again. Everyone wins, everyone is excited. And obviously it got diluted into something much worse the last couple of years, as I just spent a long time talking about, but it can be done well. And that's why The Evil Within kind of made me realize I needed to make this video and discuss my opinions and theories on the good and the bad side of DLC. Because when DLC is done right, it's great. Why did The Evil Within make me excited? Because, like I said, I've already played this game. I already know I love it, and I've kind of not really been into playing it for a long time now. And then when I learned that DLC was coming that I had no idea about, again, that's the key factor that plays off of what I was just bitching about with the bad DLC. I had no idea DLC was coming. They might have talked about it, and a lot of people might have already known about it, but I just didn't. I mean, they didn't make it part of, like, the selling point and the marketing campaign of this game is buy The Evil Within. Also get the Devastation DLC in March or whatever. And I don't even remember what the DLC is called now. But they didn't even do that. So I had no freaking clue. All of a sudden, boom, here's an article about the upcoming DLC, extra content for a game I love that I didn't know to expect. Boom. You know what? Bethesda just got my money. I'm excited. Not only do they have my money on lockdown, they have me interested in playing their game again. I now will have a reason really soon. I forget the release date of the DLC too. When this releases pretty soon, I have a reason to put that game in and play it again. That's what they want us to do. They want us to say, your game is still interesting to me. I want to play this game again. So even though I maybe beat it a year ago, I'm going to play it again. So boom, they've got my money. They've got me playing their game again, and they've got me happy, content, and satisfied because they gave me a complete experience already with the first release of The Evil Within. That was well worth my $60, and this next DLC will be well worth my $5, $10, or $15, whatever it's going to cost to be able to play this game again. And I'm excited about it simply because I didn't know about it, and I've already finished the game. So it's like this is the bonus that they want. That DLC it was like first trying to do. So it's just a wonderful example of how this can go right and why it's good when it's done right. There are lots of other good examples of DLC. I actually had more good examples than bad examples. Obviously, Hyrule Warriors is a great one. That game was chock full of content when it released. And then the Season Pass, which I don't love that Nintendo's doing it right now, but to be fair, the Season Pass has been an amazing value. It's brought me back to the game several times, which I've already put crazy amounts of hours into. I love the new characters, the new costumes, the new weapons, the new maps and modes to play. They've done it fantastically. Mario Kart 8 has been great because they already, of course, gave us an immensely complete game, and what they've given us for the $7 for one pack or $12 for the both is insane. They have given us almost a complete extra new Mario Kart game. 16 new tracks, like that is so crazy. Plus new characters, plus amiibo support. I mean, that is probably the best example of DLC I might have almost ever seen, which is very much aided by how cheap it is. I mean, the price is a huge factor when discussing the good and bad of DLC, and it's a huge factor as to why I think Mario Kart might be the best bang for the buck of any DLC I've ever heard of. Maybe. The The Last of Us, amazing DLC, because again, that was released well after the game. They only started pumping it several months after the game had already been out, and most people had already completed it. Last of Us might be my second or third favorite game I've ever played, and the Left Behind DLC was perfect for what that game experience was meant to do. It was a great, deeper exploration into the character of Ellie, her past, and what made her who she was before her journey with Joel started. And it kind of went back and forth to before and after the events of the game, or sorry, before and during the events of the actual game. And it was a fairly sizable length, maybe a little bit longer for the $15 would have been nice, but I still felt like overall it was okay. And it gave me what I wanted. It gave me what I think that game needed, and it injected new life into the character that already was important to me. So that was handled really well as well. So in wrapping this up, I'm going to bring up one final game that will be very controversial because I think it rests in both the good and the bad. But I'm airing it more on the side of the good, and I know it's going to piss people off, but I simply don't care. And that game is Call of Duty. So the reason I put Call of Duty in the good and bad category is because they're one of the worst offenders of DLC, and how they started their DLC structure a couple of years ago with, I think, Modern Warfare 2 or with Black Ops, kind of is sort of what set the precedent for a lot of these other companies that are doing it way, way worse. So really, Call of Duty's DLC is what started the downward spiral, but I do think that if you remove yourself from that and the fact that they are so painfully consistent with DLC and post-purchase money and content that they're trying to get from us, I actually still think that they're giving us pretty good value for the DLC. So that's why I look at them as kind of a gray area. Yes, they're the worst offender, and yes, they were almost the first offender of the bad practices today, but they're giving us really good content for the money that they're asking us for people who enjoy the game. And I do enjoy Call of Duty. I've always admitted it's my guilty pleasure title. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. You can hate it if you want. I have nothing against that, but I really enjoy Call of Duty. And I love, in fact, it's an insane coincidence because just yesterday, the first Call of Duty DLC pack for Advanced Warfare released, and I actually just downloaded it this morning, and when I finish editing and posting this video, I'll be playing it for the first time. So, Call of Duty gives you 4 maps, new weapons, and new modes like zombie modes with this first $15 DLC, or for the $50, you get 4 of these packs throughout the year until the next Call of Duty comes out. Now, I don't care what walk of life you're coming from, and I don't care what your opinion of Call of Duty as a game or an entertainment piece of media is. That is value. They give me, I think, enough for my $15 that I feel very justified doing it. I didn't even hesitate. I was waiting for the 26th so that I could buy this pack. I was like, boom. 26th, it's finally out. Here you go. Here's my $15. Download it. I had no problem doing it because I know I get 4 new maps to play in multiplayer, and I love Call of Duty multiplayer. So they're delivering on the promise of the value of DLC. So, like I said, anyone who would complain to me about Call of Duty's DLC, I would never dispute you. You need to know that. There's nothing wrong with someone who has a problem with Call of Duty's DLC because they do it consistently. They do it all the time, and they're getting an extra $50 to $60 out of people for releasing this with every new game that's already $60 just to get invested in the first place. So there really is shaky ground with Call of Duty. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just sharing with you my answer. It is both good and bad, but to me it's more good than it is bad. So I have no problem giving them more money every time they release new DLC. So I don't know. That's kind of that. And so with that, I'm going to sum this up with basically bad DLC is DLC that's basically released or talked about before the game comes out and is gouging the consumer. Good DLC is DLC that comes out well after the game is released that makes us feel like they didn't start working on this before the game was launched. Maybe they waited until they completed the game, released the game, and then it's like, let's dive back in to this game and make some more stuff for people to play and enjoy this game again. That's the difference. That's good DLC. That's bad DLC. That's how I see them. Again, these are my opinions. This is a Rob theory, so this is how I feel about it. You may, in fact, you may very likely feel quite different about DLC. I would love to hear about it. Please share your opinions and your thoughts and theories on this topic, on DLC as a whole. How do you feel about it in today's gaming market? What do you think are good examples and bad examples? What do you think of my examples? Do you think that those were that those were true and just as far as what I thought was a bad example and what I thought was a good example of DLC? Do you have completely different or opposite opinions? Share that all. There's a lot of different ways to take this conversation. You've heard mine for 25 minutes, so I definitely want to hear yours. So thanks for tuning in. Of course, if you have a suggestion for a Rob theory, I would encourage you to do that and leave that down below, so please feel free to do so. Like I said, please share your comments and your thoughts about this idea and the good and the bad DLC below. Please feel free to subscribe, rate, and comment. And that's it, so thanks for tuning in to this third edition of Rob Theories, and I will catch you guys on another video for Rule of Two Review.